Well, welcome to the next in our series on uh, the road to flavorful hope. And we'll be spending time with Alan Roxburgh, of course, and Martin Robinson, but also Jeremiah and Paul's first letter to the Christians in Corinth, chapter 12. Oh, so much good stuff today.
Where are we supposed to be up to in the Refounding book?
We are talking about chapter 8 today.
Oh, okay.
Good, because I haven't read further.
Yeah, no, it's chapter 8. So we are now on track with the adult formation going
That
forward.
was the only assignment was 8 for there too.
Correct.
Oh, I was thinking I had to get through 10.
Well, you have done your due diligence and you're
I
ahead of
am
the
not through 10, but I'm into 10.
Oh, good. I think the later chapters are more useful than the earlier chapters in
Now I'm
some.
going to miss out on some of it. Alas. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what can I do?
Yeah, your surgery's next Wednesday, right?
Yep. So
I'm thinking about you, man.
thank you. Just I'll miss this on Fridays and Sundays, but there we are.
No, you got to take care of yourself, man.
Mhm.
Well, so let's take a minute and let's pray, and then we'll dive into all the good stuff for the day. Thank you, God, for the way in which you come to us, the way in which you seek us. Sometimes it feels like we're always seeking you, and really, in some senses, it's about you seeking us. Help us be mindful of how you would speak to us today, how you would clear our eyes, open our hearts, help us to love better than we have. Amen. So I think let's start with Roxburgh today. Shall we? I gotta
Okay.
find my Roxburgh. Oh, there it is.
Although it made me wonder how much of it is Roxburgh and how much of it is Robinson.
Yeah.
Either Roxburgh is speaking of himself in the third person or Robinson is writing.
They both write in the third person about themselves.
Do they?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's it's kind of the way you're supposed to, I think.
When you're doing a joint project.
Yeah, when you're doing a joint project. So, but chapter 8, metaphors for liminal spaces. And he takes several different kinds of runs at what biblical metaphors we might use. The exile, a resident alien, a journey, the diaspora, and then lastly, he comes to fermentation and bubbling.
Well, I hope the brewers do some fermentation and bubbling.
Yeah, really.
Speaking of
Oh, it
fermentation,
was such a hard game to watch last night.
anyhow.
Yeah. We have to wait a day too.
Yep.
Like, seriously? They're 90 minutes apart. Why do we have to wait a day?
Pitchers need to
That's right.
recover.
That's right. That's right. So what do you think about these different metaphors that he pulls out to talk about what we are doing these days? Let's start with the exile. What do you think about that as a metaphor? And what's his problem with it? Because he does have a problem with it. There are things he likes about it.
Uh, I kept trying to figure out where he was going. I just was never quite sure.
Sure.
Not going anywhere. He's saying where not to go, I guess.
Well, yeah, I think so. I'm looking on page 121. Uh, 120 and 121. If you look at the bottom of 120, he says, the metaphor does not refer to a psychological state of loss or anxiety, but the concrete reality of what was happening to people who identified themselves as Christians as the gospel moved across the known world. And here he's got in mind how Peter talks about Christians being exiles. And then continuing on to the next page, but we have not moved to another physical land, only to the unfamiliar territory of being seen as completely irrelevant to our contemporary world. Wow.
I think another metaphor that might be kicked around these days is invasion.
Yeah.
We think, this is our land, and in come all these
Mm.
anti-Christian thoughts and practices, and that, so they might think they're being under siege, but again, it's the question of, you've made your own bed, and now you're lying in it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to ponder about the church, right? This this sense of being under siege that a lot of
Or
Christians.
being the victim because you've been the on top for so long. Now you feel you're not you're not on top anymore, so you must be
Well,
a victim.
but that's not really the theme of the modernity's wager. That's just a sense of abandoning, which went on for most of the last century.
Yeah, I think modernity's wager, because the church bought into that. And I'm going to throw our church and our tradition into that mix, right?
Mm.
Because we were very much
Yep.
institutional advocates. We were part of the system, I guess I should say. So
I
the
need to
sense
go
that the
back and
system
read
is
the
changing is
mediators, I
frustrating
guess.
to a lot of folks in that category. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Bob?
I need to go back and read the mediators, I guess.
Mm. Well, I have to confess, I have tried at least 3 times to make it through the mediators, and I have not succeeded.
And you imagine writing it.
If he
There are
wrote it, it might.
many things that I love about my grandfather. His ability to write is impressive, but I just it's daunting. And
But
I have to confess, I went to my historian daughter for advice on, how to read it, because I was slogging through it, and she's like, you need to read faster.
In
You just have
other
to
words,
read faster.
they put me on a machine like that at Brookfield Academy which would push a bar down the page to try to force me to read faster, and it didn't work.
Oh, she said you don't have to know every point. Just you just track the argument.
Yes,
I
guess.
think that's probably good advice.
But why are you throwing us in with it, given that we resisted the universalification of
Mhm.
we retained a sense of independence in the against the current of.
Well, I mean, for example, I look at we've talked about my grandfather here. So I look at Henry David and I look at what he was doing. He served primarily 2 churches, one on the West Coast, in South Pasadena, Oneana Church, and then Old South Church in Hartford. And I'm not saying that he was not I guess I should state it positively. He was dynamic. He was trying to follow God's direction, and he was indeed serving in a time in which there was an upward swing, and he was trying to harness that upward swing in our society. I get that. I also know he served on urban planning boards, bringing his vast experience and encyclopedic knowledge to uh, to the efforts in Hartford and in California to do well for the people of each of those communities. But that's an institutional approach to all of that, right? He's working with the system. And you could make the argument, and I think Roxburgh might, that the church that Grandpa led, the efforts of that time were often co-opted by modernity's wager. I think Grandpa had a deeper and broader sense of who God was and how God interacted with us. And so I would say I would not put Grandpa entirely, Henry David, entirely in the camp of just being uh, colonized in his viewpoint by by modernity. But there's no question that he was part of that system and saw himself as contributing positively in that system.
We talked about that before, about interpreting people outside of their context.
I mean, really, we have to recognize that in the 40s and 50s, it was in the air that people were breathing. It was just how your life went. And the American dream was a sign of hope in those times, and not only accessible, but look at how many people it worked. And we have to kind of bear that in mind, I think, and as we're thinking here about what our time is like. It might not be working in our time, but it has worked highly successfully in a whole bunch of other periods.
So modernity's wager wasn't operative in the, or it was. I mean, what are we saying here? That I mean,
No, it was
people
operating,
were going to church big time,
and it's a
not for the
mistake
right reasons.
it's a mistake to think that none of them were going for spiritual reasons, right? Or that God wasn't working in their lives in powerful ways, right? We can't make that argument. What we can say is that in that time period, the idea that you didn't really need God in order to have a good life was something that was gaining traction.
Okay, I mean, this wager wasn't the flip of a switch. It was a gradual sliding away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Centuries
Absolutely.
long, according to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are pieces that we can turning points, right? We could talk about the Scopes trial and the effect that that had. We can talk about um, um, the fundamentalist movement that kicks off in the late 20s in response to that. Um, but we could also go back farther to Darwin's theory of evolution. And it's positing, oh, well, evolution takes care of everything. Well, does it? But that fundamentalist movement really kicks off in the late 20s because of that. Uh, let me also share. I don't know that I've shared this here. We used to live in Beloit, Wisconsin, which has a really terrific liberal arts college founded by Congregationalists, as it turns out. And one of the fascinating things, because it was right there, I thought, well, I'm going to go see what they got. And so I went into their stacks and I looked up all of their theology stuff and church stuff, and there is a point in time beyond which there is nothing, before which there are many things.
What point in time is that?
1937.
Ooh, wow.
So between the mid 1920s, before the 1920s, there's a ton. It's a congregational school. In the mid 1920s, starting in the mid 1920s, the collection starts to fall off. And the last thing is 1937.
I'll send
And
you a
it
link
is
of
a book
something
that
you
is
brought.
skeptical of theology.
I'll send you a link that you'll have to listen to.
Sure. So let me add another data point to that. So Cynthia has her doctorate in neuropsychology, right? So when I got the call to move to Beloit, Cynthia comes along and she applies to teach psychology at the college.
And she's equipped with her doctorate by then. Okay.
Yep. She's not only equipped with the doctorate, she has publications and experience as an instructor at a women's liberal arts school in Milwaukee, at Alverno College.
Oh, okay.
And so she comes with experience and publications, and they almost didn't hire her
Oh, they did. Okay.
because I was her spouse. So there was an anti-clerical.
Well, yeah. Okay.
And why? Because they felt like a pastor is anti-intellectual. Someone who believes is anti-intellectual.
This is going to resonate with you, this link. I'll send it to you too again.
I don't hold that against them, but that is a great example of modernity's wager working.
The link traces back the genesis of this sort of thinking to the early part of the century, when they decided that any college that was founded by a church should be labeled as a institute of propaganda.
And so many colleges responded by changing their affiliations or changing how their affiliations were expressed.
Well, up to that point, almost every college was. I mean, even the great colleges of England.
Yes. So when we're thinking about exile, returning to kind of where we ran off
Sorry.
into this rabbit trail here, what we're talking about is a sense by some Christians, particularly starting in the 70s and 80s, having a sense that someone moved my cheese, as the title of that book was.
Yeah.
We had a good thing going. What's wrong? And feeling like they're exiles in the world that they used to be part of running. So I think in that sense, exile, that's what you talked about, Ken, about this sense that or maybe even resentment, that the way we used to be respected is we are no longer respected. We have lost power and influence in society. I think that's not incorrect.
Yet it's not we who went into exile, but others who left us.
Yes. And so that's part of why exile for me doesn't work. is the direction's wrong.
Mhm.
We weren't sent into exile. Everybody else just moved.
Yeah.
Looking at the bottom of 121. Yeah, well, okay, the middle. The problem is it's the end of the first full paragraph. The problem is that the people of the Euro-tribal churches haven't been sent anywhere against their will and are not dwelling in some strange land. Many other things may be happening, but this does not describe our reality. And skipping down, as a metaphor, exile draws people into their feelings of loss, disorientation, and anger, but it fails to offer a realistic assessment of their situation. Skipping down, the popular use of this metaphor is another form of the wager. Its appeal lies in the reassertion of a human control that occludes, wow, the need to listen to the spirit. So that's why he thinks that exile, at the end of the day, exile doesn't help us as a metaphor into a positive place. It leads us only to resentment and anger.
Is this where you picked up Jeremiah 29?
Yes.
Is that what you're going to use?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is part of the place. The section we're reading from Jeremiah actually um, looks past exile, and that's part of why it's useful to us
Okay.
because it's not stuck in the metaphor in the same way that a lot of people are. Well, let's look at the next one. Resident alien. This is a suggestion from Stanley Hauerwas and Will Willimon, both folks I really respect, writers and thinkers I really respect. What do you think about this section here? The idea of being in a post-Constantinian age is an interesting one, isn't it? Or maybe even a pre-Constantinian age.
Putting the blame on the Constantinian period when basically turned the independent Christians into this Roman Catholic Church, which we Protestants like to belittle and want to get back to the primitive church, the way it was in the good old days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but to get there, I guess their complaint here is that again, we've got to do that rather than looking to the Spirit to lead us into where we're supposed to be.
yeah. Part of what he's after here is he doesn't want to just undercut the Constantinian piece, right? Whenever the church seeks power over love, it um, it loses its way. Whenever it seeks love over power, love instead of power, it's on target.
Mhm.
The problem with the Reformation is that it created power structures too. And so part of what Roxburgh is saying is it's not enough to look back to before Constantine and the councils were setting up official power structures. You have to almost start over is his thought about that. Look at the um,
Basically, I have to give up power.
correct at the top of 123. Um, the default of these churches to reconceive themselves continually within European reformations of the 16th and 17th centuries. It is not only a Constantinian imagination that makes little sense today, but also a Reformation imagination. The ways in which the metaphor of resident alien is conceived may not be sufficient for the refounding. I I guess I actually like the language of resident alien in some ways. It's very reminds me of Hebrews. All of these folks lived in a country not their own. But it also implies the language
Oh,
of pilgrimage.
there's a sense of being in the world, but not of the world.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's helpful for us. It's useful language. I think he's right that we can't stay in that spot because resident alien is not enough.
It's disconnected.
Yes, that's right.
And in a sense, that was what Jeremiah was teaching against, not to be aliens, but to make where they've been exiled into home again.
Correct.
Don't get
Correct.
too comfortable.
Which is why I like the Jeremiah passage that we're reading today. We're gonna start today. The next line, the next metaphor he offers is the journey.
And you like that one.
I do like that one as a whole, but it also kind of it it dovetails in with the resident alien piece. And again, there's this lack of connection. We're journeying. We make relationships in the land. That's one of the things about the story of Abram and Sarah. If you read it, they are making relationships in the land with the people who already live there. So there are pieces of that I like. The bottom of the first paragraph, an Abram and Sarai like journey moves past notions of return and fixing. It invites us into a space of trusting God, though we can't know the details of the journey, a place where we must improvise within the drama of God's agency. Ooh, I do like that part. Part of why I like this as a metaphor, maybe not exclusively, is it describes our reality as a fellowship. We're journeying. We don't know where we're really going.
Yeah.
With
Okay.
God's help, we're making it up as we go.
It's useful for the start of the process to just get out of the space has been keeping us in a rut for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little bit farther, he kind of fills in the nature of the metaphor. Journey is about picking up and moving away from somewhere. This has great appeal to a largely rootless culture with little investment in the local. We will be emphasizing the importance of being rooted. Yet at the same time, there is a journey to be made, which, like Abram and Sarai's, involves the letting go of control and power, a setting aside of the need to know outcomes and define destinations. Thus, this important image of a journey like that of Abram and Sarai has to be held in tension with this call to be rooted, to embrace the call to stability we will discuss later. I like that. But I agree with him. I think it's insufficient. So how about anything to add in that space? Okay. Well, the next one's diaspora. Do you know what that word means, diaspora? I mean, yeah, but do you know the roots?
As in disperse, like
Yeah, it's
disperse the
casting
seed.
seeds.
Yeah. This parable of the sower.
The parable of the sower is the image there. That's right. What do you think about this as a metaphor? What do you like about it, or what don't you like about it?
Well, in the beginning, the church was gathered in one place, as in Pentecost. They're all
Mm-hmm.
there in Jerusalem, but they couldn't just stay there and get the job done. They had to disperse, and Paul made it even more dispersed. To you can't just stick to the Jews. The other nations are waiting to hear
Yeah,
this too.
yeah,
So it's it's a diaspora
yeah.
sowing those seeds.
And it's worth saying that one of the things that drove the diaspora was not only this desire to spread the word, but it was also driven by persecution. The first stage of the diaspora is after Stephen's stoning, the first martyr. And Paul is the Saul, who becomes Paul, is part of that effort, first effort to persecute the Christians, and the result is they scatter.
Paul is the hat check guy or the coat check guy.
Yeah, yeah. Have you heard the saying, the blood of the martyrs waters the seeds of the gospel? Yeah,
Blood of patriots waters the tree of liberty.
same idea. Yep. The thing about, for me, the thing about the metaphor that doesn't work is that we're staying put. So we're not being sent around. We're not being scattered to the winds.
No,
That's yeah.
we've been scattered and we've come together, most of us from somewhere else.
I think it does make sense, as he points out on 125, it does make sense when we're talking about immigrant communities coming to the United States or to the West more broadly. And oftentimes they're coming because the conditions where they are just intolerable. But I
When
think of the Sudanese community that is in our church building, here's a group that left where they were to go someplace else. And here they're finding their worship and their faith. They're really amazing to talk to about that.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
well, reading ahead that's not how the parish is supposed to work for just ethnic groups to stick together.
And as all immigrant groups do, the first generation they stick together, and the second one they start to kind of branch out, and by the third one, usually they're assimilated. I mean, I know it was true in my immigrant family's experience.
Hmm.
But so I think let's move on to his last one, which he, of course, is his favorite. The fermentation and bubbling piece.
Okay, diaspora is from the Greek. Okay,
That's right.
thank you. I couldn't help
That's right.
myself. Uh,
Dia meaning
Hebrew or Greek,
through, and spora meaning seed.
so it's not a Hebrew word; it's a Greek word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Greeks describing the Hebrews.
But one of the first groups that it's used to talk about are actually the Jews.
Right.
who were dispersed across the Middle East because of the exile. So let's look at these last few pages from 126 through 130. What were some of the things that rose to the top for you guys?
Let's see. There was a line about this is way out on, well, since it's last page, maybe I
Sure.
should read.
No, that's fine.
Well, the bubbling broke the surface in 1968, public awareness. As workers took to the streets in Paris, the elites were taken by surprise because they had no framework within which to place what was happening. And it's like, so the elites struggle to explain Brexit or Trump and, and the pushback to their agendas from ordinary people. But if if support for Trump is pushback against the elites, what is resistance to Trump? I'm thinking they're both part of the same elite, basically. You know, they're different elites, but they're really part of the same
Well,
modernity wager. So
yeah,
it's
let's leave the resistance to Trump aside for just a second.
right. It's just a perpetual
Let's
Oh
struggle
just
no, I think
between
it's part of the
parties.
picture.
let's just revel in the peace in the Middle East for now. Yeah.
You know,
We've
I
been
give
praying
some
for it, and
credit.
here it is. We should celebrate it.
I give Trump credit. He pushed at this in a way most presidents have been unwilling to. And look what we have. Maybe
Maybe
it may not be anything yet. There's still a lot of work to do.
but he
I
may have
give
been
him
the only
credit.
one who could push Netanyahu because Biden had a bad relationship with him. So maybe it's only someone who started out on a different foot that was able to
Well,
get this
Biden had a
through.
bad relations with the people in the Gulf too that helped make it happen.
Yeah, there are pieces that look really positive about this, but this idea of the elites getting surprised.
Yeah.
Well, it happened to the French again with the yellow vests.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah,
Doomed to repeat itself.
yeah. We often don't learn the lessons of history, or we learn the wrong ones. That's our other favorite trick.
Well, I
The
remember the world was abuzz when I was in and getting out of graduate school about the European unification.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's like I was willing to bet against it, which, you know, you can be right, but it doesn't do you any good to be right if you're way early.
Yeah.
Just the cultures, the language, the commonality, it just awful hard to put that together in a cohesive way.
I think that's probably right. And that would be a reflection of how the elites think something is a good idea. And they're going to work for it. It might even happen. I think the merger, the United Church of Christ merger in the 50s is another good example of that. Oh yeah, this is a great idea. We should definitely do this. Well, but wait a minute. But wait a minute. Is it really good? Is it good for everybody? What do we do about the folks for whom it's not a good thing?
And that's where he seems to gloss over the differences that have driven us apart, the different faiths. He seems to have this kumbaya. We're all Christians, or we're mostly Christians, or we're all humans, and we can just all live together in our neighborhood, in our parish, and well, we'll all go to the ward houses because they're already there. They're already well established. So join in.
Yeah. But yeah. It's one of the reasons why this top-down notion of how we're going to run how our I should say how our communities are going to go, or how our organizations are going to go is it's not working because the elites are not paying attention. Um, and sometimes what happens is overreach, right? So you think the elites think they've got the right idea, and maybe they were onto it first, and then they take it farther than anybody ever thought they would. And then it turns out to not be good for for all of us in the same way, which is why we're seeing seesawing between the party leaderships.
It's a struggle between elites
Uh,
of different parties. Yeah.
And I don't know if you all will agree with this, but I think in the struggle between the elites is leaving the rank and file folks, the grassroots folks, at a place where we're not always being addressed, or our needs are not always being addressed. And what remember Stephen Ambrose, Stephen McCauley's uh, quote last week? He said, "When two elephants fighting, it's the grass that suffers." And I thought that was really a handy tool for talking about it. And in the process, the thing I don't like about that analogy is I think there's a point at which the grass takes charge and the elephants are going to lose. But we are not in that moment. Or maybe we are, I don't know. So what I'd like to do is
Okay, that's from Little Big Man. That today is a good day to die. Only the rocks live forever.
yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's go to Jeremiah. I'm likely to preach on Jeremiah on Sunday. Oh, yeah, there it is. And it's been a great discussion, but wow. So in the interest of not making you all crazy, I will read the first 3 verses.
In what chapter?
Jeremiah.
Chapter 29.
Okay.
Jeremiah 29.
As referenced by Roxburgh.
Because it's a ton of names. And I'm not sure I'm going to get them all right either.
And I'm going to read it tomorrow.
Well, so Ken, I'm willing to switch with you if you want.
No, you have me started at 4, so I don't have to read all those names.
Okay. All right. This is the text of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the surviving elders among the exiles and to the priests, the prophets, and all the other people Nebuchadnezzar had carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. That happened in 598. There were 2 waves to the exile. The first one took all the best and brightest away, 598. And Jeremiah stayed in Judah for that time period. But then they rebel against Babylon. King Zedekiah rebels, and Babylon says, we've had enough of this. And they come and crush Jerusalem and the temple. And that's in 587. So this is in that period in between that this letter is happening. Did you notice how it's being communicated? Oh, we haven't gotten to that part. Let me keep going. This was after King Jehoiachin and the queen mother, the court officials, and the leaders of Judah and Jerusalem, the skilled workers and the artisans had gone into exile from Jerusalem. Now that's the best and the brightest. He entrusted the letter to Elisha, son of Shaphan, and to Gemariah, son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent to King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. So this goes with the official envoys. It's kind of like the diplomatic bag. Questions about this? Elisah, I should have said, I think. Son of Shaphan, the Gamariah, son of Hilkiah. Oh, did you know the ending, Yah, is God's name?
Sure. Yeah.
It's one of the cool things about names. So, and we have vestiges of that, obviously, in English, right? Jeremiah comes through, Elijah comes through, includes God's name. Pretty cool. All right. So, would someone read 4 through 9 for us?
I'm doing it on Sunday, so I'll let Bob do it.
Okay, I
Okay.
was trying to figure out which way you wanted to go on that. This is what he wrote. These are the words of the Lord of hosts, of the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have carried off from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their produce. Marry wives and beget sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters to husbands, so that they may bear sons and daughters, and you may increase there and not dwindle away. Seek the welfare of any city to which I have carried you off, and pray to the Lord for it. On its welfare, your welfare will depend. For these are the words of the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. Do not be deceived by the prophets or the diviners among you, and do not listen to the wise women whom you set to dream dreams. They prophesy falsely to you in my name. I do not send them. This is the very word of the Lord. These are the words of the Lord. When a full 70 years has passed over Babylon, I will take up your cause and
Oh,
fulfill
let's
the
pause. Let's pause after verse 9. So I'm saving verse 10 and what's following for next Sunday.
Ah,
Oh,
So we're just
we
going to
don't
beat
have to wait
verse
70
9.
years. That's nice.
70 years.
now 7 days.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So what are things you're curious about as you read these verses here?
Acclimate, integrate.
Don't cut yourself off from the world. Like, I mean, you'll you may not be of the world, but you still have to be in it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not going to be like the Shakers or the Amish. Don't in particular the Shakers. They just got a new member. Did you hear that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they just got a new member. But the Shakers, they're going to dwindle away. There will come a point at which there aren't any, which is sad because it's a great tradition.
I've heard there was a prophecy that they would dwindle to very few, and that would be the sign of the coming of
Oh,
the
I
second
haven't heard
coming.
that yet.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Anyway,
What's happening to the World War II veterans? They're just about gone.
Yeah,
Every year there, or every few weeks, there's another
there's another
last
one.
of.
Yeah, I missed that bunch. There are many things I loved about their sense of history, their sense of duty, their longing for a better world, being part of the system that makes the better world. I love that about them.
And the nun who was the patron saint of the college in Chicago's basketball team just passed away
I
at
saw that too.
106 or something like that.
Yeah.
they had an NPR story about her this morning. Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
That was a big innings,
Yeah,
as they say in cricket.
yeah. The God refers to himself, or Jeremiah refers to God, the Lord Almighty. So in Hebrew, that's Yahweh Sabaoth. And yours translates it Lord of Hosts. That's right. I think that's how it should be translated. Mine says Lord Almighty. I don't think that that's as close to the original. This is, I think, an even better one would be the Lord of Heavenly Armies.
Hmm.
That would be how I would translate that. So, Jesus, God is the commander in chief of the heavenly armies.
Onward, Christian soldiers.
Well, that's part of where the language comes from. 100%. That we then are going to be soldiers in those heavenly armies. And these days we have a negative view of kind of a militant approach to faith, maybe deservedly so, given how Christians have behaved in the past. But this idea of being at God's command, I think, is worthwhile for us.
There was another metaphor he missed. He could have been behind enemy lines.
Oh, you're right. I have to think about that.
Hmm.
Although Jeremiah seems to be starting to get away from the enemy side of things and don't consider them your enemy. They're
Yeah.
now your neighbors.
Yeah, and that's part of what I find interesting. So I like the metaphor of battle, kind of behind enemy lines at some level. It reminds us that we're not meant to uh, just seek our own good. If you're behind enemy lines, you've got to do good for the one who sent you, right? But this is Jeremiah is taking a very different approach to this. Yeah, you're there. Pray for the city, for the peace and prosperity of the city where you are. Because if they prosper, you prosper.
Demographics is power.
Yes, I think that's part of what he's acknowledging. That you can keep fighting, but at the end of the day, are you making things better? Is the question he's asking. And I think that's a really valid question for us to ask ourselves. If we're always fighting the grassroots around us. I'm not talking about the elephants fighting here. I'm talking about the grass because we're part of the grass, right? If we're always fighting, are we benefiting the community? Hmm. And it's one of the reasons why our polarized system right now is actually working against us. It doesn't matter what side of the equation you're gonna be on, but the polarization isn't helping. That's part of the elephants fighting over and the grass getting hurt. So it actually the elephants fighting has trickled down into the grass and the grass is fighting too. Well, that's ridiculous. It's not helping us. Jeremiah takes a different.
I just wonder whether it's becoming less polarized, but not in the way that maybe the majority of our fellowship would prefer.
That it's a possibility. It's a possibility with the what tools do we have to know that? I think it's hard in this polarized environment to get figures that help us to that conclusion. What I see is people are tired. I think people are tired not only of the fight, but tired of the elephants not paying attention to them. I think Trump's election has a lot to do with that. I think people were fed up with some things, and they voted on that basis. It's a clear warning call to everybody else. And I think that there could be a backlash in store because of how things are going right now. This is what you were talking about, Ken, is it
Yeah.
feels like the elites are not paying attention again.
So it's like once you're fed up with both sides, maybe there will be a mass withdrawal from both parties.
But then, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how we do this.
Hmm.
I don't know. And this is why on balance, I would prefer Jeremiah's take on this. That is, I can't keep the elephants from fighting. Maybe I can in the long term. If I keep voting right, if I keep voting my conscience or what God's doing, maybe things will get better. But in the meantime, what I have to do is seek the peace and prosperity of our community, fighting the demographics. However the demographics are moving, because I can't judge that, Jeremiah doesn't expect his people to. Just be part of what's going on. Be the presence of God to the people around you. I think these are challenging times we're living in. I think it's really hard to discern God's hand in it, in what's going on. And everybody who says that they know what the answer is, they're fooling themselves. And I'll take myself as proof. I don't know what's going on. Do I have to still live in the environment in which we are? Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to faithfully live in the environment in which we live.
Well, I'm trying to remember I mean, Charlie Kirk had a series of advice, 5 or 6 things. I can't list
Yeah?
them all off, but
Okay.
it's get married, have a family, go to church. I mean, it sounds a little bit like Jeremiah, actually.
I think it's quite possible that he and I are talking about the same approach, right? At the moment, we can't tell where things are going to land. So let's be part of the solution wherever we are. I think that's good advice. I think that's good advice. If you or other folks have other advice, I'm happy to listen to it. But I'm just in a space where things are unsettled, where we're feeling disoriented and dislocated. The idea of putting down roots is a way to say to the system that isn't working. It's very countercultural, I guess, to the system around us. And I think I'm good with that. It's saying I'm going to do good things with my life. I think this is challenging. I don't think this is easy. And as Jeremiah says, watch out for the folks who tell you that it is decided, because I don't think that's clear always in our society right now. Are there principles that we should advocate for? Yeah, probably. But at the end of the day, maybe we're not going to go where the elephants tell us to go. Maybe we're gonna just be good grass for now.
Just don't go where the asses tell you to go.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Interesting passage. Interesting reading. Thanks for thinking about it with me. I really appreciate you guys. Here we should pray and let you guys get off to whatever you guys have next. Let's pray. Oh, great God. The world seems difficult to navigate right now. It's hard to discern your hand in the events of our days. May we be mindful of how you would have us walk in our lives, that we would show compassion, that we would act lovingly, that we would seek justice and be humble. Please, God, help us to make a difference in a way that is faithful to you. Help us, help our world, help our nation to find our way through to a better day. We know there is one, and we know that you know the way. Amen. Thanks, you guys. So for next week, we're going to keep going with Jeremiah. So you could read a little bit farther down the Jeremiah road. And then we're going to be in 1 Corinthians 13, which is a very familiar passage. So find another translation than the one that you're familiar with, because it will help you think outside of your box.
What's your Corinthians reference this week?
It's 12.
12. Okay. It's just a continuation. Okay.
It's 12 to 27. I'm reading from the Message this week, in
Okay.
part to get us out of our box.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
for Roxburgh, we're going to be chapter 9 and 12.
And 12.
9 and 12. It's really short.
And forget about
but our
chapter
reading
11.
for next Sunday, for the 19th, is 9 and 10. So, but we're not going to talk about 10 for our Bible study. We'll talk about 10 the week after. I think 9 and 12 go together better.
Oh,
And I don't want to skip 12, and we'll miss our opportunity. And 11, I didn't find, by all means read it if you want, but I didn't think it was critical to our understanding. Cool.
right.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
God bless you. We'll see you Sunday.
God willing.
God willing, and the creeks don't rise.
Yep.
As they well might.
As well might if it
Come the
keeps
rain.
raining. And go Brewers.